and a free-thinking intellectual, 2 reasons for the Nazis to send him to a concentration camp. For several years he was at Auschwitz, the most notorious of the Nazi death camps. In the camp, every vestige of humanity was taken from him, except what he could sustain in his mind and his heart. He was in constant pain, reduced to a near skeleton with a tattooed number on his arm, liable at any moment to be beaten or killed on the whim of a guard. He was there to be worked to death. He watched those around him shot or pummeled or carted off to the gas chambers every day. He made an astonishing choice. He decided that, utterly deprived of freedom in the nightmare world around him, he would tend one precious candle of light within. He would exercise the freedom to choose his attitude. It sounds preposterous if you don't know the story of what unfolded. When people tell us we have a bad attitude in ordinary circumstances, we are usually not grateful. The suggestion that we can choose our attitude when the world around us seems cold and bleak, or we have suffered a major setback, even heartbreak, sounds cruel. But let's stay with Viktor Frankl. When the light went out in his world, he managed to light that inner candle of vision. Despite the pain in his body and the screams and groans around him, he made an inner movie, a film of possible life in a world where the Nazis had been defeated and Hitler was a memory. It was an impossible vision, of course, an escapist fantasy. There was no way he was going to survive Auschwitz. But he kept working on his inner movie, night after night, as director, scriptwriter, and star. He produced a scene in which he was giving a lecture in a well-filled auditorium. His body had filled out, and he was wearing a good suit. The people in the audience were intelligent and enthusiastic. The theme of his lecture was the psychology of the concentration camps. In his movie, not only were the death camps a thing of the past, he had retained the sanity and academic objectivity to speak about what went on during the Holocaust from a professional psychiatric perspective. This exercise in inner vision, conducted under almost unimaginably difficult circumstances, got Viktor Frankl through. 1 year after the war ended, in a good suit, he gave that lecture, as he had seen himself doing in his inner movies. What do we take away from this? First, that however tough our situation may seem to be, we always have the freedom to choose our attitude. And this can change everything. Let's allow William James to chime in. The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Second, that our problems, however bad, are unlikely to be quite as bad as a situation of someone who's been sent to a Nazi death camp. That thought may help us to gain perspective, to stand back from a welter of grief and self-pity and rise to a place where we can start to dream up something better. Third, that we can make inner movies, and if they are good enough, it is possible that they will play in the theatre of the world. If we take Viktor Frankl's example to heart, we see that choosing your attitude can be an exercise in creative imagination that is much more practical and original than trying to edit your inner soundtrack, though that is worth trying, or telling yourself that you can't afford the energy of a negative thought. You can learn to use the energy of any strong emotion, including grief and rage. Would you like to make your own life movies, in which you enjoy the satisfaction of your deepest desires? Are you willing to grow a vision of bright possibility, so rich and alive that it wants to take root in the world? Then you want to learn to use your imagination. The word imagination comes from the Latin imago, or image. Imagination has been defined as the faculty that clothes the forces at play in the inner world in images, so we can perceive and interact with them. Fantasia, from which we derive fantasy, is a Greek word for imagination. It means making visible. The act of making visible makes it possible for humans to communicate with beings that are more than human. Fantasia was the organ by which the divine world spoke to the human mind, Robert Johnson observed in Inner Work. From my experience, I am convinced that it is nearly impossible to produce anything in the imagination that is not an authentic representation.